and Personnel Committee to order. Thank you. This is our irregularly scheduled March meeting. This is not a special meeting, but we're meeting at a special time to accommodate the fact that several of us will be at the NISAC conference next Monday. We have quorum. I see Lee and Greg and myself. I was told that Rich John and Mike Lane would be late, so we're going to get started without them. So I think the first thing we'll do is approve the minutes, and then I have a change to the agenda to accommodate the busy schedule of our district attorney. So if somebody would like to move the minutes, thank you, Greg. Lee seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's have a roll call vote. Lee Shurtleff?
Aye.
Greg Mezey?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so that's unanimous. And as I mentioned, we're going to move Resolution A right up to the top of our agenda, even before public comment, because it involves staffing for the district attorney's office. And I am informed that Matt Van Houten, our DA, has to be in court at 3:30. So the resolution in question is budget adjustment and appropriation of contingent funds to various accounts of the Tompkins County District Attorney, ID 10687. Could someone move that, please? Greg moves it. Seconds it. You gentlemen are going to be very busy moving and seconding until the committee gets here. So thank you. Matt, do you want to explain this to us?
Sure. I think what it comes down to, and thank you, Deborah, for moving me up to the top of the agenda. I appreciate that. What it comes down to is trying to recognize longevity within the district attorney's office. There is, right now we have 4 levels of assistant district attorney, ADA 1, 2, 3, and 4. And back in November, with Ruby's help, I created an additional title, the ADA 5 title, which recognizes a senior lawyer, someone, in this case, the person who I would like to move into that position has over 15 years working in this office, is a mentor and a leader in the office. And I don't want to lose him to the private sector. So that's the basis for bumping up, creating this additional ADA 5 title, which is really one pay level higher than the senior ADAs are now. And that would be, an available position to maintain those senior attorneys in rare cases like this, where they've chosen to stay in this office for that long.
So this is not a new hire or a new person in the office. It's simply a promotion for an existing staff member.
That's correct. And the monies that would be allocated are simply the amounts that would amount to the difference between what an ADA 4 is paid and an ADA 5 would be paid under the new job title.
Okay. All right. I see a question from our chair.
Hi, thank you, Deb. Thanks, Matt. I was wanting to know, and I wanted to ask Ruby if we provide this type of scenario for our other departments.
On an as-needed basis, we review it case by case. This is simply a promotion, and there was funding available with some shifting. So, yes, we do.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Lee, is that a hand?
Yes, it is. Just a quick question. Contingency will take care of you for this year, Matt. Do you see this as an over target request or a shuffling of the budget in years moving forward to maintain it at this level?
Well, I would seek to include it in the 2023 budget in whatever way that I I try to work within the parameters as I'm advised by the county administrator and the budget office, but yes.
We're gonna see it again, so, yeah. I'm fine
Yeah.
with it, Deborah.
Yeah, I mean, any of these things that we do mid-year are going to inevitably show up in maintenance of effort for next year. And I guess it increases target, as I understand it. But as we're going to see, and as we have seen in the past, we have problems keeping qualified people because our salaries are not necessarily competitive. That's one reason why we're moving forward with compensations. And, you know, if we need to address this on a department by department basis, I mean, I hate to open up those floodgates, but we can't afford to lose people. So are we ready to vote? Okay, I don't see any objection. So Lee?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So you got that, Matt. And
Thank you very much.
yeah, thanks for looking after keeping our good staff, and good luck in court today.
I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
All right. So let's backtrack to where we were. Are there any members of the public present to make a comment?
I haven't received any comment and nobody's requested to speak.
All right, then. We will move right ahead to our county administrator report and the breathlessly anticipated rollover discussion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I could, I have a couple of brief updates before we jump into the rollover discussion. One for the committee's information. As you may be aware that in the 2022 budget, county administration had an approved one-time over target request to procure software to replace our budget system, which is in dire need of replacement. And earlier this year, late last year and earlier this year, we undertook a smart work process together with our colleagues in the finance department and ITS, talking through a number of items related to process to understand exactly what type of software we needed. Certainly one that if it wasn't fully integrated with our financial system, one that would talk with our financial system. We had 2.5 days of facilitated discussion regarding the needs of the county. And most recently, our last discussion, as part of that and part of a demonstration, we learned that the county's financial software is not going to be supported in the near future. So it's not only our budgeting software that we're going to be needing to replace, but if anything, this gave us a little bit of a heads up, or we have a little bit of a leg up because we've been having these discussions to learn that we're also going to need our financial software to be upgraded. So, and as part of our last discussion together with finance and ITS, it was determined that it would probably be the wisest or a very good use of time and funds to hire a temporary project manager to guide us through this process, because it is bigger than any one of us in terms of ITS, finance, or county admin. And I'll throw HR in as well, because a good system will also incorporate down to the level of staff positions and allocation of funds there as well. So I just wanted to provide this committee with this update, and our over target request for $102,000, which we thought would go toward at least starting us off with a first year of transitioning and procuring software for budgeting purposes. We may be coming back to you with a request to use that instead for a project manager to help guide us through this next process, which is quite a big one for the county. So unless anybody has any questions on that, I can jump to my next topic.
Lisa, can we just clarify something?
Mhm.
The OTR that we had approved already to replace, that was the cost of replacing or getting a new budget software, right?
Yes, we haven't spent any of that money yet. We thought, and we did not know exactly what the need was going to be, but we thought that would at least give us a good start for the first year costs or costs of transition, et cetera. And we're not even there yet.
So if we move that funding over to retaining a contractor or project manager of some kind, we're also going to be facing the additional costs of the budget and finance software. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, I just want everybody to know that's coming. So thanks. Are there any questions? Lee?
How much are you thinking the software package could run? Is there a range, Lisa?
I think it really depends on what direction we take, and really the sky's the limit in terms of the cost of these. A full enterprise management system is, I can't even begin to give you the ballpark. It's more than what we're paying now, for sure.
You got to bring the systems together somehow.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that finance has been working with admin and IT to try to figure out how we could transition into an integrated system. And I gather that's when we found out that the existing finance software will no longer be supported by the developers. So, yeah.
Has there been a large service contract on what you're working with now, or is it just so antiquated that they fix it once in a while?
I can only speak for the budgeting software, and we do not pay much for it, and we get what we pay for.
Good answer.
I got a follow-up response for you, if that's okay.
Yeah.
I know with the e-finance plus, the software system we use for general ledger accounting, purchasing, everything that we do here is a annual subscription cost or an annual maintenance fee that we pay, which is very reasonable. We have never really complained too much about the cost. It only goes up a little bit each year. Unfortunately, as Lisa said, that particular software will not be available in a couple of years. So we need to start working now on the next system. That same company or a related company to it has a bigger, better ERP system that they would love to sell us. And sometimes when you're looking at a total package, depending on how many modules you buy in the ERP system, you could be looking at $500,000.
Ouch.
But now that's looking at it as if you were paying it all at once out of pocket. Most places now have gone to in the cloud or subscription-based service where it's spread out over time. So you very rarely see companies or governments buying software in total, the whole package up front, like in the old days. But I just wanted to give you a sense of a six-figure number looming around the corner. But that's all we know about it at this time.
Thanks, Rick. Henry, I see your hand up.
Yes, Lisa, do you have any sense of the time frame of when when all the packages would be done, or when you'd even start?
Well, it certainly won't be done in time for the budget preparation process for 2023. And we knew that going into it, that we would at least be using that company for one more year for the budget preparation process, and quite possibly a second year, because we want to get it right. We do want to move as quickly as we can, but and in order to get it right, we are trying to address and rectify, if we need to, any processes that we have in Tompkins County that have caused us to need specialized programming for workarounds, or because we do things a little different here and there. Wherever possible, if we can standardize our processes, we don't have to customize our software. And so we're trying to do that where it makes sense. And that takes a little time.
Also, I mean, I know that Ruby's department also had some issues. Do they have the same kind of timing issues that the finance department does?
Ruby.
Okay,
You want to
well,
speak to that, Ruby?
part of what Lease, the system they're trying to get in, would talk to our HR systems, our finance, all together, and budgeting. Each system has a little bit of something that we all need. Now, my current systems, well, we don't want to talk about those. We have a tailor-made system for our application process. And then we have an upgraded version of that one that's not fully utilized, but they can't talk to each other. So they're by the same people, but they don't have the same information in it. So that's a problem in and of itself, and that's a strictly HR problem that we won't even add to the discussion today. We'll deal with that some other kind of way. Right now, we're working around it.
And another piece to answer Henry's question too is that ITS and HR and payroll have just gone through a major upgrade of the HR payroll system and the transfer over to UKG, which there are still pieces of that they are finishing implementing. And there is no plan on the horizon to change any of that. Whatever we choose for budgeting and finance will talk to the HR payroll system and UKG. That's been years in the process, and we're finally at the final stages of that piece.
Yeah, I think we should look at this as an opportunity, because as I understand it from my limited exposure to discussions about these various systems, is they've been patched together with duct tape on an as-needed basis, which is why when Kevin left, we were at such a disadvantage. So we need to be patient with admin and finance and HR and IT to take advantage of this opportunity to get this right, and understand that it will be expensive, but it will be an investment in the county's future operations proceeding more smoothly than they have in the past. So, Greg?
Just a quick question for either Lisa or Rick. Do you foresee a new, enterprise system program creating any efficiencies or cost savings as it relates to personnel? Right? Is it going to make us more efficient? If we're not going to have to do the workarounds, will we see savings in other aspects of different department budgets because we have, a system now that's more able to do what we need it to do?
I can speak to that. I don't know that I can say it will necessarily equate to fewer personnel. I do think that there will be efficiencies gained on the budgeting side of things, in terms of the budget preparation, and if we can find a system that the end user, meaning departments, can utilize fully for budget tracking and budget management throughout the year, then it will budget or departments will no longer need to keep side books on things if they can't find it readily in the current budget software, that leads to a risk factor in and of itself in terms of accuracy and having one system of record that one can rely on. So I think that those are the areas that I see immediately in terms of efficiency and risk reduction.
Yeah, Deb, from an HR standpoint, I don't see it, like Lisa said, I don't see it reducing personnel, but it will make it more efficient. Heather's going to give you a report later on today that if we had a better system, we wouldn't have to manually count and delete. So in terms of accuracy, efficiency, and speed, that would allow us to do what we need to do. And then the other things that we've put on the back burner. So I don't see it saving in terms of replacing personnel, but efficiency, definitely.
And then I also, to add to that too, if it leads overall to better budget management, then there will be cost savings. In effect, people can better manage their budgets.
Okay. We can move on now to the rollover discussion.
Okay. And then my only one other update prior to that, and this won't be as long, I don't think, but I just wanted to share and make the committee aware of some unfortunate news, and that is that our budget director, Dan Nolan, has been offered and accepted a position elsewhere and will be leaving the county after March 18th. So I just want to thank him for his service, and just wanted to make you aware of this, that we will be posting shortly this opportunity and moving forward. So.
And thank you, Daniel, for getting us through the last year. I sure do wish we could pay you as much as they do in NYC, but
well, I'm gonna be local. I'm staying here, so I'm not going anywhere. I'm still a member of the community, and my wife and I just bought a house. And thank you guys. Listen, this wasn't planned. This was not part of the plan. But as I said to Lisa, it was more that a couple of friends reached out to me for a firm that they're working for, and it was an opportunity I would have had a hard time passing up. So, like I said, it wasn't part of the plan, but I'm not going anywhere. I'll see you guys around, and I plan on being involved in local government on some level, or at least volunteering and stuff, because again, I just moved to the community. So I'm excited for that moving forward. And thank you guys for working with me the time you did here. I'm really happy we're having the discussion we all just had, because it's been a long, it's only been like, what, 6 months or 9 months or whatever it was that I've been here, but that's been the main focus. So I'm glad that it's finally gotten to the point where everybody's talking about it. And I'm excited to see that you kind of bring it home. So thank you guys.
thank you. We'll miss you.
Thank you.
So then with that, we can talk a little bit more about can pick up on the rollover discussion that where we left off last month. And thank you, Dan, for those remarks. We had some time to have some further discussions and look at a bit of a meta-analysis of rollover over the last few years. What departments have been utilizing rollover for. And we have been able to see fairly easily that vehicles and computer expenses are two consistent areas for expenditure of rollover. And those are two areas in which we can and have pretty easily put some procedures in place to centralize the procurement, and therefore the costs and the expenses for vehicle replacement and computer replacement. We've just instituted the Green Fleet Policy, which will centralize vehicle procurement and take those expenses out of departments' operating budgets. And then just earlier today, we spoke with ITS about centralizing computer procurement and creating a capital reserve account for those expenses. We also had a conversation together with the finance department and Rick about changes that we could make, or ways in which, if we were to consider changing or eliminating the rollover, that we might be able to create a transition for departments in doing it. And we all agreed that if we're going to make a change, it's probably best just to make the change and wipe the slate clean with existing rollover balances, both positive or negative. We could increase the contingency fund in anticipation that if there are mid-year requests, they could go through contingency. And then otherwise, the over target request procedure would remain exactly the same, and the funds would come out of the fund balance for any one-time expenditures there. Rick had also indicated that there is, from using the procurement cards of the company that we use, there is a rebate that is due to the county, due back to the county and back to departments according to their expenditures. And if we chose, we could distribute it this year to departments to help provide them with a type of transition if we're going to be doing away with rollover. So those are some of the things that we've discussed for this year. And I guess I wanted to hear reactions from the committee, and the next step that we would be taking would be to bring back to you suggested changes in the fiscal policy around the rollover section of the fiscal policy for this committee's review and for the GO committee's review. And as part of that process, any policy review would be sent out to departments for their input and comment. So I can leave it to you as to where you'd like to take this discussion, but that if that is the direction that we would proceed in, then we would bring that back to you for review and action at the April budget and capital meeting.
So budgeteers, questions and comments. Lee.
Appreciate all the background information in the last discussion that we had in committee was useful. Lisa, you kind of broadened my perspective on the use of rollover. I wasn't sure quite what the numbers were. And I know as far as the larger departments go, you deal with mismatched budget years, large carryovers that happen from something. And, you know, those can be handled and are handled in many times through budget adjustment process. the over target requests have worked well for some departments along the lines. I just have one remaining concern that's out there, and this goes back 27 years in that when, believe it or not, I can think back that far some days. The only problem I had, just from a perspective of a small department head back then, was that when they set up the target budgets in many of the departments, there wasn't a lot of input into them. And basically, if you go back to 1994, 95, they gave you as the target whatever you were getting that year, and you move forward on it. A lot of departments have used the rollover. In my observation over the years, have used the over target process as a means to scrape together to take care of computers, cars, whatever they couldn't normally have built into their budget, supplies even. And a lot of what happened along the way was that departments would build their budgets around maintaining or expanding FTEs and covering the personnel costs where they could. And then they'd save on any line they could to get the supplies and equipment that they needed to move ahead in the next year. And I don't know that we have ever gone back and taken a good, strong look at a lot of the target budgets. They've worked with the processes that we have and made it through these years. And if you're going to take rollover off the table, I'm not necessarily opposed to it. Somehow with a new budget director and new administration, we ought to be looking to see if the target budgets really do meet the target needs in the departments. And in the end, if you do that and take a look at the structuring, it may actually reduce the over target requests that you get year after year after year in September and October, because there's a lot of small target requests that probably, we shouldn't be doing that to the departments year after year. Does that make sense to you, Lisa?
Absolutely, it does. It does. And I think, well, I've only done this 1 year, this past year, but I have been witness to it for a couple of years. And it's been my experience that we've tried, and we've tried again this year in the interim period between active budget cycles, to look at some departments where there are trends, they've run deficits in certain lines for a couple of years, and we want to know why, and was that line in their budget, how was that arrived at, and is that inaccurate? What has changed, and should we change that amount going forward? So I think I hear what you're saying, Lee. I think that's a great point, and it's something that we can and should be doing, and we're trying to address.
That's okay. I get fearful of losing a tool that some have that helps them manage some extremely tight budgets. But I also understand the broader implications of carrying forward a rollover policy that a lot of people have been uncomfortable with for a long time.
I think if we have a better budget process, there won't be so much dependence on rollover. That would be my response to your concern, Lee, that the
Thank you.
process should be more sensitive on the front end so that our departments aren't using OTRs and rollover on the back end to make up for what they lack. Mike, did I see your hand?
Yes, thanks. Lisa, I appreciate your looking into this even more. And I look forward to seeing whatever proposals you might want to suggest to us, hoping to pare back the program without hurting the departments. And if there are alternative ways that we need to think about to have funding or contingency or being able to hold the money over from year to year. I think we ought to be thinking about that.
Anyone else? Yeah, I would just say that I think some kind of centralized fund for these needs would ensure that the departments get the money they need when they need to replace these items. But the legislature might be a little more attentive when they dole it out than we usually are when we see a rollover request.
Okay. Well, thank you, and we'll come back. We'll come back in a month with some suggested changes to the policy.
Okay, great. We'll look forward to that. So let's see. We have the Director of Finance report. Rick?
Hello. We have nothing to report except that we have our 2 job vacancies posted or going to be posted very soon. The financial payable clerk has been posted for a while, and that's a position that has been vacant for some time. We do know that Linda Halstead, our retiree employee that has come back many times to help us, will be leaving our ranks on May 20th. So we are hoping to have somebody in place for the financial accounts payable position very soon. We also are almost at the place of advertising the Director of Accounting Services position, which Joanne Carruthers has resigned from, and she'll be leaving us on April 1st, and willing to work and assist us a little bit behind the scenes if we can work that out 12 to 15 hours a week to help us get through a transition period. The Director of Accounting Services position, that job description is being reviewed by HR right now. And as soon as we get their sign off, we'll send that request to fill vacancy to Lisa Holmes. And I know Lisa's up there waiting with bated breath just to say yes. Right, Lisa? And we'll be moving on that shortly also. So even though we have staff changes, we are moving ahead with the audits and everything's going pretty well. And that's really all I have for today.
Thanks, Rick. I just want to be sure I understand this. You have a financial clerk, a financial accounts payable clerk, and a Director of Accounting Services position. Are these all things that need to be filled?
Yes, both of those. One has been vacant for a long time, and we're just now getting around to filling it. And the temporary person who has been assisting will no longer be helping us. That's Linda, effective May 20th.
Okay.
That means we will have a spot because we're getting almost not quite as bad as the 3rd floor, but we're getting cramped for space too because we don't know really. We can't really add staff because we have no place to put them unless we do modifications. But Joanne's position, the director position, we just became aware of that a few weeks ago, and we're going to be sorry to lose her, and we're really sad that she's leaving, but she's leaving for personal reasons, and but she is willing to help us out a little bit, like I said, 12 to 15 hours a week to help us through the transition. And that is a supervisory position, a mid-management level position.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
For Rick? All right, if in that case, we are going to hear from Henry about WDIC.
WDIC met a couple of weeks ago. We talked about our 2022 goals. We also talked about the Juneteenth holiday proposition. We didn't talk numbers, but we did talk about Juneteenth being a possible county holiday. And also we talked about the DEIJ strategic planning group, and that was very busy, and that continues to meet. And we also talked about the Team Jedi goals that they're gonna set up for this year. And that was about it.
Henry, you guys are generating new acronyms like guppies over there. What's the DEIJ Strategic Planning Initiative?
That's the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, Justice Strategic Plan. It came on the heels of the DEIJ statement. And so we're now doing a strategic planning group based on the statement.
So is that different from Team Jedi?
Yes, that's different from Team Jedi.
Okay. All right. So just quickly, who is in on this DEIJ Strategic Plan Initiative?
Deanna is leading it. Kate Cheng Booth is on it. Rachel Graham, I Am Theory on it. And Liza McBean Claiborne is also on it.
Okay.
And Ruby.
All right, thank you. Is that everything?
Yep.
Okay, so next up, we've got our Commissioner of Human Resources, Ruby Pulliam.
Hello, everybody, again. I have Heather Buck here, who is the HR Programs and Systems Administrator and my go-to person for just about everything. She's going to present to you our annual civil service report, a summary of it. The annual civil service report is due March 1st of every year, but it answers some of those demographic questions that have come up every now and then. And I thought it would be useful for the committee to have that information. Heather?
Hi, everyone. I'm going to share my screen. Can everyone see the slideshow presentation?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to share with you the information from our Civil Service Annual Report for 2021. HR provides civil service oversight to 28 county departments, 9 towns, 6 villages, 7 school districts, and 5 special districts. We reported 1,958 people to the classified service. This does not include those that are unclassified, like elected officials.
It's not moving.
It's not advancing.
Sorry about that.
You know, it would be awesome also if you all wouldn't mind sending a copy of the PowerPoint to the committee members at your convenience after the meeting. That way, if we don't get to see it now, we'll get to see it later.
See if it can go, you can click from beginning again, Heather.
Okay. Is it showing on your end now?
Not.
Well, yeah, it's still on the first slide though.
Right. Up at the top where it's under.
There. Maybe you have to do it by hand.
I think so. It won't let me do it through the slideshow presentation, but I'll do it this
Okay.
way.
Hey, we're used to working around it. Right, Heather?
Okay. So we provide civil service oversight to 28 county departments, 9 towns, 6 villages, 7 schools, and 5 special districts. We reported 1,958 people in the classified service. And again, it does not count unclassified like elected officials. Below is the breakdown of how many employees in each group. So almost 700 county employees, 759 school, 255 town, 160 village, and 85 special district employees. Of the 1,958 employees, 133 of them are currently provisional, which means they are pending examination. So our provisional rate is currently at 6%. It's a little higher than the state's recommended 5%. However, most of that is due to canceled testing in 2020, and the state still trying to catch up with examinations. We had approximately 250 distinct recruitment efforts in 2021. Our office reviewed 4,761 applications. This would also include driver's license checks and professional license checks for those applications that require them. Of the 4,761 applications, our racial ethnic diversity rate was 17%. And the chart below provides you a breakdown in how we came to that number. Our office administered 100 civil service examinations in 2021. We had approximately 600 candidates sign up for exams. Of that 600, 350 actually sat for the exam, 250 were considered no-show. The county made 27 appointments from civil service eligible lists. Of the 27 appointments, the racial ethnic diversity rate was 14%. And again, a chart below to provide the breakdown. We certified to the state our exam fee report for 2021 on February 2nd. We paid to the state $5,042 for examination booklet preparation and exam score rating. Our completed projects for 2021, settled contracts for road patrol and white collar, which also includes management and confidential. We successfully implemented in-person psychological evaluation for law enforcement positions in accordance with the Community Policing Act of 2021. We are currently finalizing our policy and appeal process, but that's mostly due to making sure that we have worked out all the kinks in that process before putting it in a written format. We streamlined our hiring process, updated our forms, created written instructions and step-by-step checklists, and provided training for our departments, our county departments, and our municipalities. And then our goals for 2022. We will continue to work with departments to assist with staffing needs. We will revamp employee experiences through onboarding and employee recognition efforts. We will create a countywide professional development and training program, as well as how to store and send out that documentation to county employees. Facilitate a countywide compensation study. We are currently working with eGov to merge our two systems into one to improve our internal processes and workflow while providing data needed for reporting purposes. And currently we are exploring an electronic workflow process through Laserfiche for onboarding and new employee orientation. And then here's just a glimpse of our office and the HR staff.
Thank you, Heather. Are there any questions? And we will provide copies of this to each member and to the staff, legislative staff.
That's great. Thank you. You know, I knew you guys were just down there eating bonbons all day.
We have to get through the pace.
That's right. I see your hand, Mike.
Heather, what was the percentage of people who were no-show for these exams?
It's a little over 50-50. It really depends each year, but I think this one was a 40% no-show rate.
Do you have any idea why it's so high?
I don't.
You want me to opine? One of the first things I noticed when I got here, and there are advantages. Let me say that first off. Tompkins County does not charge exam fees. People can sign up for exams as many as they want, however many times that they want. whether they intend to take the exams or not. And the benefit of that is that, it's encouraging people to apply for the exams, but there's no buy-in for some of that. But you look at it, 350 showed up, 250 did not. So you have to weigh the advantages of that.
Is that average, or do you think it had something to do with the pandemic?
It's pretty average.
Oh, okay.
No shows are from Niagara Falls. We had very few no-shows, but then we charge for the exams as well.
So they had to pay up front, and if they didn't show up, they forfeited their money. Okay.
No refunds.
How
So
much,
does it?
how
Oh,
much do
sorry.
they have to pay?
It depends on the salary of the position. For higher salary, you paid as much as $35, $40 per exam. For the lower salaries, $15, $20. Tompkins County is one of the very few civil service units that do not charge for exams. And I'm not saying you should.
Well, I'm curious to know, do we incur costs for scheduling a certain number of people and then nobody shows up?
We
That
have to pay
number's-
per booklet.
Yeah. Once we put in an order for the booklets, and it's not changed within a certain amount of time, then the county pays those fees. And I think, what was the cost we paid?
So this year we paid $5,042, but the breakdown is $7.50 per booklet for most exams, and then $15 per booklet for the uniformed series, which would be law enforcement titles.
Oh. Okay, well, that's something to think about. I see your hand.
Okay. Go ahead, Lee.
Just a couple of things. Great report, Heather. Thank you. I love looking at statistics like that and seeing where they come from. And second point, I feel your pain, Ruby and Heather. When I was in a former department, we put a lot of effort into the recruitment and getting people to take a test where we hadn't before, particularly with dispatchers. Had huge numbers sign up successfully, and one year, great turnout. The next year, about that percentage. And one of the concerns I had is that I know we don't charge, but if we were to charge, it would probably even further reduce participation from certain demographics or many demographics. And so that's a tough one to work with. One thing that kind of strikes me is you got 1,958 classified employees in local governments here. And if you take out the, say 30,000 students, full or part-time students, that's 1 in 35 people in the county that work for a local government body. I would be interested to know, don't know if it's not urgent, but I mean, where do the employees live? Is there a way of providing that demographic? How many of them live inside of the Tompkins County versus outside? And I'm looking at that from a more broad point of view in affordability for employees and some of the other issues we'll be discussing as we move ahead. Just one of those demographic things that, to me, I think talks a little more broadly about public policy implications.
We can get that report.
That would be useful to have. I think, yeah. Thanks for bringing that up, Lee. Any other questions for Ruby or Heather? Thank you, ladies. Great report. When I get that PowerPoint, I'm going to forward it to Martha Robertson.
Oh, no, don't.
Oh, no. I mean, I think she would be interested.
Yeah, but there will be 20 more questions following that we may not have the answer for just yet.
Well, she should address those questions to her legislator.
What other?
Just remember, everybody in the county has 14.
All right, moving on.
The only thing, I have one more thing to add, Deborah.
Yeah, okay.
I reviewed the proposals that were submitted for the RFP for the compensation study. One of the groups, Mike, sent an article to everyone about from Burke. Burke just completed Cortland County's compensation study, which is pretty much what we're asking them to do, is basically a market analysis and not necessarily a complete compensation study. Based upon my review, I do have a link. I'll put it in the chat for you if you're interested to see their report to Cortland Legislature. I think ours will be very similar if we chose Burke, but Burke did come out the #1 rated for the proposals that was submitted, followed by JER HR Group. So if you are ready, I can make a final recommendation to the committee. Based upon the amount, Burke is $27,000. I'm not sure. I'll have to speak with Rick and Finance exactly about what we can do. If I can just say, let's get a contract with them, or we'd have to go through some sort of process for it. But I can make a recommendation for the proposals if you wish, and we'll follow through with the process if that's.
I see hands waving in the distance. So Mike and then Lee.
I would think that it would be a good idea if Ruby or Lisa would contact the administrator over in Cortland and say, were you happy with the process using this group?
That's a good idea.
Okay.
Lee?
I'm kind of in the same camp with Mike. I'm pleasantly surprised with the number you just gave us, Ruby. And if you think they met the needs of our neighboring county and they're going to capture that market study, I would say move.
Well, I think one thing I'd want to be sure of, and our guru, Kathy Covert, is not here. I just want to be sure I understand what the proper process is here and that we follow it. You know, if it turns out that we need to have a formal recommendation and a resolution,
Do that.
that's, I think, where we need to go. We could always, if necessary, have a quick BCP meeting before our legislature meeting on the 17th if we feel that there's a rush to get this done. But I just want to be sure that we follow process.
Okay. From James Fabian, purchasing, when he put out the RFP and gave me the proposals, he said the next step, and I'll have to confirm this as well, would be once we make a recommendation of the award, we have to draft award letters and non-award letters, and then draft a contract with compliance.
Correct.
Okay, but that's what you all need to do.
Right.
We need to do. That's, I trust that you're going to do your piece. I just want to make sure we're doing the right piece.
Okay.
Can
We'll follow up and check.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
I covered this with James already in purchasing, but how much was the amount that you anticipate spending?
For Burke, it was $27,000.
Okay.
And I think that falls under.
Yeah, you'd only need 2 proposals. It technically wouldn't even need an RFP, but if you want to do an RFP.
We did.
That's already been done.
It's done. That's great. And the other side of it is, yes, contract. A lot of times start moving on the contract with Jesse even before the formal acceptance goes through all the legislative committee meetings and things like that. We kind of work on that simultaneously on the side if we really know we need to get going on something quick. So as soon as we can bring Jesse into that loop also, that would be great.
So
Yeah,
I'll do
because-
a reference check. Lisa?
I was just looking at the policy and what's required in terms of legislative action. And so it said, the Legislative Program Committee, to which the department that is purchasing and or contracting goods and or services reports, shall be provided with a written statement of the nature of the goods and services being procured, the highlights of the terms and the price of the goods or services, any other information about bidding and contracts that is requested by members of the program committee shall be provided in an expeditious and clear manner. So I don't think that there's a resolution that's required.
Okay, but I do think there's more than just, that we got 2 bids and.
Well, it's under the policy that under the capital program, the legislature is required to take action, but under other bids and requests shall be awarded by the director of finance or their designee. So it's not my understanding that all RFP, any time a department procures something through an RFP, that the legislature votes on it.
Okay.
Is that accurate, Rick?
Yes.
So I just want to be sure that we present this not just to the 4 or 5 of us who are here now, but that everybody in the legislature knows what we're doing. I guess we could have Ruby present this at the legislature meeting.
What I'll do is I'll do the reference checks and talk with people. I already had a conversation with the HR counterpart. I haven't checked with anyone from the legislature to see if they were happy with that, but we'll do a reference check and then go through our policies and procedures and make sure we prepare something for the full ledge as a point of information if necessary, and then follow.
And you can just double check with Kathy to make sure that you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's. So what did your HR counterpart in Cortland County have to say? Were they pleased?
Well, this one wasn't, because she felt like the information could have been obtained from a Google search, but not all information about salaries are published. So there was some work done by the agency to get that information. And then putting it all together, analyzing it, doing the statistical summaries. I think, she was a little bit cynical. So, and what did you ask for? You didn't ask for a full compensation study. You did not ask for reclassifications or point factor ratings. You didn't ask them to compile similar job descriptions, change job grades. Didn't ask for that. You simply asked for market analysis. And that's what I think they gave them.
Okay.
So
what do you think, gentlemen? Are we good with Ruby going forward, make a recommendation at the next legislature meeting?
I'm okay with that, with the briefing from Ruby to the full legislature.
Okay. Lee?
Agreed.
Greg?
Yeah, I think that's what we asked Ruby to do. So I think this is great.
Okay. All right.
do you all want the link to the report that was given to the Cortland legislature?
Please.
I can send that okay. I'll send that via email.
Okay, great.
That's it from me.
Thank you, Ruby. Does anybody have anything else for Ruby before we move on to our resolutions? All right, then. Let's move on. Resolution B, authorization for budget adjustment to stop DWI reserves balance to 2022 budget. Can I get a motion on that? Lee moves. I see Greg seconds. All right.
They're making repairs. He came on.
Okay, is somebody here to address this particular resolution? Nobody from the sheriff's office here, nobody from admin knows what's going on with this?
I kind of do. I know that a few weeks back, they asked what their reserve balance was at the end of the year. So we pretty much dropped everything. We don't usually do their reserve balance this early, but we stopped and we calculated the DWI reserves effective 12/31/21, so they would know what the balance was. I don't have that balance. Oh yeah, they have it in the first line, $281,000. So when I told them that allowed them to go forward, to think ahead and make a plan for what you see in this resolution, appropriating just $31,687 of that much larger rollover balance or reserve balance of $281,000. So they have consulted our office to make sure that they had more than enough money there.
Yeah, I guess that wasn't really my question. My question was, how did they amass almost $300,000 in reserves from this one program? Does anybody know that?
So, this program used to generate enough program income, to hire and to employ a full-time staff person. And actually, the reserves and the revenues generated through the program have decreased year after year, to the point where they could no longer retain a staff person. That staff person used to sit in county admin, and then it was transferred back up to the sheriff's department and enveloped within their ranks. So the reserve account, it is not surprising, but it's been dwindling. It used to actually be much, much higher.
And that results from, going back when they had a position in higher revenues, we used to simply add up all the revenues that they brought into their budget for the year and subtracted out their expenditures. And if there was a surplus, we put
They got to keep it.
Have to keep the DWI reserves. When we found out years ago, like Lisa said, that we no longer could fund a full-time position for that, Jason and Kevin came up with a unofficial policy that would go to the ledge and have that position either taken away, which did come out of admin, and supplanted somewhere else in the county framework, which had ended up, as Lisa said, up at the sheriff's department. And now we no longer subtract out any personal services, which was the biggest expense each year, of course. Now all that they have in their budget, which is a pretty small budget, is their fee income. They're driving the DWI revenue that comes in, and some, operating expenses, like what you see here, program expenses and operating expenses. And for the last couple of years, the revenues have come in higher than the expenses. So we do that calculation at the end of each year. And every year that they have higher fee income in excess of their expenditure, we allow them to keep that and roll it forward as a DWI reserve. And that's how it gotten to be to that $281,000 figure.
So would this reserve fund be subject to the rollover policy if we change it?
No, these are the type of arrangements that make rollover a headache, because whenever you have an independent policy or reserve, that's one of my 12 reasons to get rid of rollovers. That whenever you have a reserve, you have to back that out of the rollover calculation so they don't get it twice. So if a department such as this one gets a reserve of money to use, they also don't get revenue rollover money. It's one or the other. So they can't.
So a change in the rollover policy wouldn't take this reserve fund away from the sheriff's department?
It would not.
These funds come from fees generated through the Stop DWI program. If someone receives a DWI, right, they get fines. It's not county money, so to speak.
Okay. And is
In
it,
other words, it's specifically earmarked for these types of expenditures. And that's why it's not like,
okay, so we couldn't use it for anything else.
No.
Okay, good to understand. Thank you. Mike, I see your hand.
Are we still providing funding from this program to the other police departments? We always used to. They used to do things like give them money for additional patrols or breathalyzers or things like that that help to enforce the DWI laws.
Yes.
So we're giving 31,000 here to the sheriff, but there's still other money that's going to the other departments?
Yes, and I believe that that the requests, each law enforcement agency has to put a request in, and it has to go before the Stop DWI committee before it's approved to be allocated out of the Stop DWI funds.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate, I'm still learning. There's still so much to learn. So thank you for answering my questions. Are we ready to vote on this one? Okay, Lee,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Thank you. The next resolution C, appropriation from contingent fund for consulting services, county administration, ID 10689. Can I get a motion on that one? Mike moves and Lee seconds. Lisa, I guess you got to explain this for the umpteenth time.
This may look familiar. This is the request. You're only seeing this again because we changed fiscal year. So we're in 2022 and we still have the need for consulting services, primarily with Kevin, to take us up to the point in the budget cycle where he left off, because again, it's at least a year's worth of training for both the budget director and budget analyst to understand the particulars of how it's done and the software. And so we're hopefully coming to the end of the need for this.
So this will take us through the year, a full year from when Kevin left.
Yes.
All right. So even though this refers to a contract arrangement with the former county administrator, and previous budget coordinator. Okay. So the bulk of will be Kevin.
Yep.
Okay.
And I consult with Jason from time to time if there's something that needs to be explained, or if he, yeah. So I still utilize Jason from time to time, but
Okay.
it's primarily Kevin.
Thank you. Any questions for Lisa? Okay. Lee,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Moving on to resolution D, resolution for outstanding payment to New York State Department of Labor for the Office of Employment and Training Ancillary Agreement, ID 10703. Can I get a motion? Mike moves. I'll second it. Okay. Who wants to speak to this?
I think it's me again. I see Rosemary's here too to back me up if necessary, but this predates Rosemary and me for that matter. It was the, as of July 1st, 2018, our lease agreement expired for the space in Center Ithaca that is leased by our Workforce New York Career Center Office of Employment and Training. That lapsed, and at the same time, so we continued the payment with them that we were making, the annual payment, but at that time they recalculated, they changed the formula by which they were charging us for space. to more accurately reflect the space that we were taking up in that building. And prior to that, they were basically undercharging us. So this more accurately reflects the square footage that staff are taking in that building. And in this resolution is for the back rent owed to the New York State Department of Labor that holds the lease in that building. And we are required by law to co-locate our Workforce New York Career Center with the New York State Department of Labor. The annual increase in the lease cost went up marginally during that time. The large increase is really due to the change in formula.
Thank you. Lee?
I'm trying to remember last month's conversation, Mike and I both are. It seemed like we were okay with it moving forward. Was this the one where we were looking for an escape clause if something happened with the downtown, or was that another one?
That's
That was
another one.
That was the one with.
Okay,
We'll
That
get
was
to
Workforce-
that one.
Workforce Development Board. Yep.
okay. Thank you. Workforce.
Okay, Greg?
Do we have an agreement with them that outlines how space is calculated or how space was calculated?
Yes.
So they
We
didn't,
just didn't sign it.
or we didn't sign it?
Meaning we have not had a signed agreement since July 1st, 2018.
Okay. And so now they're coming to us with a new agreement that's
No,
different?
this is essentially the
agreement.
same agreement, same terms.
Got it. It was just a calculation difference in how much space we occupied from
Correct.
the original agreement.
That's right.
And we're just making that up 4 years in arrears.
Yep.
Okay, just trying to simplify it for the,
For our avid public viewers? Yeah, okay.
really for me in my mind, but hoping the public benefits from that too.
Okay. Are we ready to vote? Lee,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
and I'm a yes.
As much as.
Okay, you won't be homeless, Rosemary. All right,
Thank you.
next. You're welcome. Our next resolution, authorizing use of contingency funds for the Housing Affordability and Supportive Infrastructure Grant Program, ID 10712. Can I get a motion on that one, please? Greg moves it. Lee seconds it, and Joan is here to explain it.
Thank you. I'll try to be as brief as I can. So in last year's budget, in the 2021 budget, there was $15,000 in general funds appropriated for this grant program. 2 grants were awarded, but they were awarded late in 2021. One was with the town of Danby to support them as they put together an application for community development block grants funding, and the other was with the town of Lansing to help them prepare a draft environmental impact statement for their town center incentive zone. So this would allow, in the absence of a rollover policy, this would allow us to honor those contracts that we signed.
So just for my benefit of understanding how the money flows, when this money was allocated to you for this purpose and you didn't use it, it went back into contingent fund and it now has to come out of contingent fund
Well,
again, because it's
I'm
coming
not sure
from
that's-
contingent.
I'm not sure that's technically the right way it is. I'd have to rely on Rick maybe or someone else to answer where it goes in this interim between the 2 years. I would say it goes into rollover, but that I don't know the status of that.
Well, the resolution states that it's coming out of contingent fund and I just want to
We're
clarify.
asking to take
Yeah.
money out of contingency fund to cover the cost of these 2 contracts.
This is a common approach that we take from contingency when a fiscal year ends and the funding would lapse and go into what we call the black hole, the general fund reserves. It would just go into general fund black hole or general fund reserves, and then we need to reappropriate. And There's a couple different ways to do that. The easiest and most common is as you see it here coming out of contingent fund.
Okay,
I'll remember that title next year, Rick. I'll
Black
recall the
hole,
Black
yes.
hole.
The black
Thank you.
hole, yeah.
all
I got
right.
that watching Star Wars.
Any other questions? Lee,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Thank you, Joan.
Thank you.
All right, next resolution, authorization to enter into a multi-year lease agreement for the Office of Workforce Development, ID 10747. Would someone please move that? Mike moves it, Greg seconds it. Lee, this is the resolution where we talked about having an escape clause the last time we discussed it. Lisa, do you want to just quickly?
Sure. So not to be confused with Workforce New York Career Center, Workforce Development Board is co-located with IAED in the Gateway Plaza building currently. That building is undergoing renovations and they are needing to relocate. And IAED is the leaseholder and we are a sub-lessee with IAED. There is not, in this case, a state requirement for co-location, but the co-location is mutually beneficial to both parties, and we would like to continue that. There is not sufficient space in existing county facilities for Workforce Development Board staff to be housed at this point. So in the meantime, IAED has found alternate space that they are moving forward with, and together with Workforce Development Board and Rosemary, and with terms and a location that's agreeable to all parties, and would like the authorization to proceed. And again, here the increase in cost, these are expenses are prorated for the current year because they already have the cost of the lease factored in. The increase in cost is actually not due to an increase in rent, but an increase in space needed because of an increase in Workforce Development Board staffers. And I think that covers it. Rosemary, did I leave anything out?
It covers it all. Right now we're a team of 3 and eventually we're going to be a team of 4. So we would need more space.
Okay, and again, I guess we need to be prepared for the fact that this will show up in the form of increased target for the Workforce Development Board in subsequent years. Does anybody have any questions? If not, let's vote. Lee,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Okay, next resolution. Rescission of resolution number 11 of 2022, appropriation from contingent fund and contract with Human Services Coalition for continued 211 COVID-19 response, ID 10707. Would someone like to move that, please? Greg moves it. Lee seconds it. Who's here to speak to this? Would that be Frank?
Yeah, I can. So we are, this is actually good news. Instead of using contingent fund, the next resolution in front of you is to use state funding that we received for COVID response for this expense. So instead of asking you all for it, the state is going to fund it.
Well, that's short and sweet. Thank you. Any questions? Lee?
Was this as part of Dan Klein's resolution that was seeking more state funding? Were we that successful that fast?
Sure.
Okay.
No, the funding for this is the $1 million that the governor supplied to counties that were implementing the mask mandate.
It's great to see some go back into contingency this afternoon. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? If not, let's vote. Lee,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. So now we've got a companion resolution, authorization to accept funds, execute contract and budget adjustment, supplemental COVID-19 funding, Health Department fiscal year 2022, ID 10708. Can I get a motion? Mike? And Greg seconds. And Frank, I guess you're the person for this as well.
Yeah, and to just be clear, this is for the budgeting of all of the money, not just the 211 money. So it's accepting the money from the state and putting it into our budget so that we can spend it.
Okay, great. Any questions? All right then, Lee,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Next resolution. Thank you, Frank. Budget adjustment, transfer from highway fund balance and amend capital program. PIN 756.53 Etna Lane, CR 109, bridge replacement, BIN 3314180, Town of Dryden, ID number 10719. Mike, I think you should move this.
No, it's Greg's district.
Oh, okay, Greg's moving it and Mike's seconding it.
Look at that, Mike. We're working together already.
All right. Is there somebody who wants to speak to this? Do we have any questions about this? If not, let's vote. Lee?
Well, also representing the town of Dryden, I'm pleased to vote yes.
All right. Mike?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
And I guess I'll vote yes too, even though I'm not from Dryden. Okay, final resolution. Increase pay rate for election workers and poll workers, ID 10757. Would somebody like to move that, please? Mike moves it. Greg seconds.
He should do that. The former election commissioner.
I never had this luxury back then. Yes, I'll move it.
I'll let Katrina sort out who moved it. So Steve DeWitt's been waiting patiently to tell us about this, and Tamara Scott as well. So take it away.
Okay, we haven't had I don't think the legislature has raised the rate for the poll workers since 2017. And the job is getting more technically, you need a little bit more technically minded people. We still have the same issue with recruiting, and possibly a little bit of a pay raise will help there. And plus, some poll workers have indicated they would like an increase in pay.
And as a former poll worker, I can attest to the fact that they deserve it.
Yes.
Greg?
Go ahead.
Just out of curiosity, you've had to add a lot of personnel. Now you have site coordinators and so on. How many people does this all affect in general numbers?
250 probably.
Wow.
So you're trying to get 250 basically volunteer positions filled each year, and this helps you move it.
Hopefully, yes, we hope so.
Greg?
Yeah, I raised this issue at GO, but I would like to see this at a living wage. I think 14 is low. I know that there's probably other implications for that, but I do think that there's, this is a critical position and this is a key part of our community and volunteers. And again, I don't necessarily understand all the implications that this may cause a ripple effect of, but I feel strongly that we should be advocating for slightly higher rate in this resolution.
Mike?
If this were even a full-time, part-time job, I would agree with Greg, but this is something that people do one or 2 days a year often.
Which they may take time out of their normal course of business or normal job or, fill in from somewhere else. So I think we should be hiring at a rate in which we're asking our community partners to hire at and encouraging.
$14 though isn't a long ways away from living wage, is it?
1532, I think, or something, whatever it is right now.
Yeah, does anybody know what the going rate is, number one? And number two, how that would change the bottom line amount of this resolution?
Just suggest it in the next budget going forward and have them do that for the over target.
Because Steve, the original pay rate was for how much of election where it was $12, I think, right?
Yeah, it went from 12.50 to 14.
So it was $1.50 increase, essentially equals 12,480. So we could figure out what another, we could do the math and figure out what that would be. Have to take a second, but.
Living wage
Well,
is 15.30.
Let me make a suggestion, Greg. Since this passed through GO, let's consider passing it out of BCP as GO passed it. And if people wish to offer an amendment on the floor on the 17th to increase it, they can do that. And if you wish to do that, I would support it.
Sure, I get that. I also, with the thought of, hearing the direction and that we should make sure that the work, a lot of this work is done at the committee level, right? And I think this is the committee that understands the purse better than GO, from an operation standpoint, GO looks at this, but from a financial standpoint, this I think is really our committee's decision to look at. So I don't know if others were supported or if it would fall short here. But I do think we have an obligation and we should be pushing for more when it comes to this.
Well, I agree. I'm just saying, I don't know that we have the exact information that we need to do it. So between now and the 17th, we can find out what exactly the living wage is and translate that into a bottom line number.
Did I hear Katrina give us a number down there?
1532 is the same number I had.
1532.
Yeah.
Is that right, Lisa?
Yeah, I just looked it up.
And I guess, Ruby, while we're on this topic, do you see any implications or impacts that this may have that we're not considering if we were to suggest a change like this?
I'd have to look into it. I'm not sure where they fall on the wage schedule. Tamara, would you have that information right on?
If they're on which schedule?
On any of the salary schedules?
Oh,
Don't believe so.
no, I don't think.
I don't think so either, but
Yeah.
It's
right
now-
generally, it's a rate that has been set by the legislature. That's the way the election
Right.
law is.
So 15 hours times basically.
Yeah.
an hour.
So-
It's 20,000. It's 6,240 hours. Essentially, is $1.50 increase. So the math that I did during the GO meeting, it looked like it was 6,240 hours. If you multiply the $1.50 increase, if you do the math to back out of the.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do. So you divided the 12,480 by a dollar.
$1.50 by $1.50. That should give you.
Okay, and you got how many hours?
6,240.
Okay, now multiply that times 1532 and tell me what you end up with.
So the difference because it's essentially 332 is the difference, right? Is the increase. So it would be that number times 332.
Okay, so what is it?
Give me 1 second. Let me just confirm. 20,716.80 cents. If my logic holds true.
Okay, so let's just say $20,717. Do you want to offer an amendment to this resolution that's on the floor?
I would, yeah.
Okay, go for it.
I'd like to amend that we bring that amount up to the current living wage at 15.32.
So that's on line 33.
Correct.
And then on line 27, and
Adam?
29, the amount would change from 12,480 to 20,717.
Correct.
Okay. Are you moving that amendment?
I am going to move that.
And I would second it. Now the question is it friendly to the movers? Well, you're the mover. So I guess it's friendly to you.
You were the mover. I was a second.
Depends which one
I
Katrina
put
chose.
me down as the mover and Mike is the second.
Oh,
Oh, I think it is. It's a straight,
No, it's not friendly.
okay, but it's a straight salary adjustment. There's no fringe to this. You're just paying an hourly rate to.
correct.
Yeah, they're contractors.
Right.
Well, there's a little bit of fringe to the election worker position. There's two positions there that are in there, but it's a reduced fringe rate. Lisa probably knows exactly what it is. No?
I don't actually. But that was my one question. That's the only implication that I could think of, and it wouldn't necessarily be a reason not to do it, but these workers they're temporary and they're considered contractors and not county employees because of most of them work on a given election day. If they work over the course of several days and they make over a certain threshold, then they are considered county employees and they have to be onboarded and put through the payroll system. So if Stephen and Tamara don't believe that this will mess with that threshold, then it's for the vast majority, it probably won't. Is that
No.
correct? Yeah. So
No, I don't think so.
Is that a $600 threshold?
Yeah.
Or is that, so it's a typical 1099, you can get, you can pay a casual $600 and not do a 1099. Is that what I'm?
Right.
yes, but if someone chooses,
But in this resolution is also the position of election worker, which I believe when we were talking about it in GO, the figure was like 11 or 12% was the fringe rate for that position. But
Was that added
it's
to
not
your
the
bottom
37.
line?
Pardon?
Was that added to your bottom line number?
Yeah, that was in the, we calculated that in the resolution.
So do you know how many, I guess, Steve, do you guys know how many hours are in this resolution?
I'd have to
What
go back and-
the calculation was to get to this?
I'd have to go back and look at my numbers on that part. Don't
See,
have it
that's
for
the
you.
problem with doing this in committee. We don't have the information.
Yeah, but I guess my question is, are we going to have the same information? I guess we have to get the information for Thursday. So,
The
And we can
information,
do
we
that.
can submit it as
Yeah.
an amendment.
So you want to withdraw that and have
Yeah.
that conversation later?
do we have to put a total in, or can we put a total in after calculation? Can we approve a living wage?
Well, you're taking it out of contingency, so they probably need something specific.
I think you need a number.
Okay.
Do you want to withdraw it and we'll re-offer it next Thursday?
Yeah, are we going to be Zoom next Thursday? Do you know? Is that continued?
I thought it expired on the 16th.
we're getting back and forth with NISAC that there's belief that another extension will be granted, but nothing's official yet. So so far as we know, it expires on the 16th.
I can't make it in person on the 18th, so I'm hesitant to push it out of committee, because if that's not extended, then I'll have to ask to be excused from that meeting because I'll be out of town.
Well, I just have trouble voting for something when we don't know what the number is.
So I guess my question is, then how are we voting for this if we don't know what the number that went into this is anyways? We just know what the.
Well, because I would assume that when Steve and Tamara presented this to GO with the number they had suggested, they did the math.
Yeah, I'll withdraw it.
Okay. And hopefully, you'll be available, to offer it at the higher rate next Thursday. And meanwhile, I would ask that, Steve and Tamara, please provide us with the number. Okay,
Number based on 1532.
please. Okay, but meanwhile, we will pass it out as is. If that's all right with everybody. So can I get, my cat agrees. So let's vote on this. Lee,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
I'm a yes. And we'll look for those numbers from the Board of Elections. Okay, then that concludes all of our resolutions in our agenda, but we do need to have an executive session. So I would ask for a motion to go into executive session to discuss matters involving individual named employees and potential issue for contract negotiations. Can I get that? Lee? And Mike seconds. I think Ruby, Daniel, Rick, Samantha, you all are the lucky ducks who are excused. We're just going to keep Lisa here for now.
Okay, I'm gonna stop the video stream.
Okay, thank you.